Hello, I'm Gwen with Rocket City Tax Accounting. In this video, I'll review one of the many QuickBooks or tax return projects I've completed here on Upwork. You'll find other project videos in the portfolio section of my Upwork profile. Unfortunately, I can't show you my clients' actual QuickBooks accounts or tax returns because I must protect their confidentiality. Instead, I'll walk you through the client's problems and my solutions using a slide presentation. This QuickBooks project was a catch-up and cleanup project for a law firm. The firm is a criminal defense and personal injury firm located in a major southeastern U.S. metro area. Its annual gross income is close to $1 million. This project covered the years 2021, 2022, and 2023. In addition to using QBO to track their income and expenses, this client also tracked the same transactions, I should say, in a separate Excel spreadsheet, and they were very much wanted Excel and QBO to match. Part of the problem for it not matching was that the firm's owner had his wife doing QuickBooks. She's a very nice lady. She's also a lawyer, very competent, but accounting is not her forte. It's not her area of expertise. So there were a lot of mistakes made, and that was one reason why Excel did not match QBO. In fact, their Excel sheet proved that QBO sales were too high and the expenses were too high or too low depending on what category you were talking about. Payroll expenses were doubled in QuickBooks. They had only a few client receipts entered into QuickBooks because they were also using Clio, which is a customer relationship manager for law firms, but they later switched to Smokeball, which is the same thing. Clio is oriented more towards attorneys billing on an hourly basis, and Smokeball is geared more towards attorneys charging flat fees, and this firm was charging or is charging flat fees. There were also other issues with their QuickBooks. So here is my process for fixing QuickBooks for them. First, I obtained all their 2021 through 2023 account statements. That included bank statements for checking and savings accounts, credit card statements, and they also accepted payments by Venmo, Stripe, and 2 or 3 others. So I obtained those statements as well, and I reconciled all those statements to QuickBooks. I set up, in order to make it easier to reconcile the sales against the payment processor statement. Let's take Venmo for example. In order to make reconciling that easier, I set up one customer name for each payment method. I set up one that was called Venmo Clients. I had another one called Check Clients, or I should say I have this. Square Clients, and other payment processors. I imported all the client payments as sales receipts and assigned the appropriate customer name to those sales receipts. If the client paid by Venmo, then that sales receipt was recorded to the Venmo client's customer or client in QuickBooks. I also imported missing expenses with the categories already assigned before I imported them. And I used Geocon to do this. Geocon is a QuickBooks plugin. It's an Intuit approved app. You use it in Google Sheets to import a lot of different kinds of data. Customers, vendors, sales receipts, invoices. There's many other things that you can import into QuickBooks using Geocon. Now you can import transactions into QuickBooks using a CSV file, but then you have to go assign the categories. With Geocon, you can assign those categories in the Google Sheet, and as you may know, with both Excel and Google Sheets, when you're typing something into the category field, you just have to type the first 2 or 3 letters, and it will repeat the same category from previous rows if it's been entered in there. So that is how Geocon speeds up the categorization of transactions. I identified and voided the duplicate transactions. There weren't a huge amount of those. About 15-20% of the transactions were duplicates. And remember earlier I said that their payroll expenses were doubled. Well, I corrected their payroll mappings in their settings. For some reason, somehow they got the idea that they needed to set up a separate and fake cash account or cash category as a bank account in QuickBooks. And they mapped their payroll expenses to that cash account, that fake cash account. The only problem was the funds were actually being paid out of their checking account, their real checking account at the bank. And so when those payments came through the checking account, they were posting in the bank feed or the transaction screen, they were posting those to excuse me, they were posting those to payroll expenses, or in the case of checks to the employees, they were posting those to wages. And then at the same time, QuickBooks Payroll was posting all that to that fake cash account. And so that's what caused payroll expenses to be doubled. It was being posted in 2 different accounts, and so therefore when it came through on the bank feed or the transaction screen, they weren't being matched up to the transactions that were already in QuickBooks. I created journal entries to correct that also. Even though I set up the payroll, or even though I corrected the payroll mappings, I could not go back and correct the checks that had already been run with the wrong payroll mappings. And that's one of the things I don't like about QuickBooks, is changing payroll items is very difficult, if not impossible. You almost always have to get QuickBooks payroll support involved, and 9 times out of 10 they're going to tell you that you can't change it. So in cases like that, the only way to change it or correct it is to create a journal entry. And the journal entries that I created moved the payroll expenses so that the expenses were no longer doubled. And the results of my efforts were that QBO came within $50,000 of matching what they had on their Excel for both income and expenses. Client was very happy with that. They'd never been able to come anywhere close before. They were happy with $50,000. And so they hired me to maintain their books and to do their tax returns, and I'm still working for them as of today. Now, if you're interested in having me work on your QuickBooks project, then let's chat. You can book a discovery call. If you're an Upwork client, you need to message me on Upwork and I'll send you a scheduling link. Until you hire me, all communications must go through Upwork. If you are another type of client, if you're not finding out about me from Upwork, then you can go to gwenharrison.com to access my online calendar, or you can also use the button below.